So good afternoon, everyone. This panel is concerning preparing the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. And we're going to talk about the collaborative approach that we've taken at Spelman College to develop curriculum that meet nice standards for training the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Next slide, please. So this panel includes me. I'm Raquel Hill. I'm a professor and chair of the Computer and Information Sciences Department at Spelman College. I will serve as a panelist and also as the moderator. Next slide, please. And also John Wilson. John is the Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Spelman College. And prior to joining Spelman, John spent 17 years as a Senior Manager of Information Technology at Emory University. And most recently, he directed the Enterprise Information Systems at the Georgia Institute of Technology, where he was responsible for strategic planning and operational oversight for a staff of 50 developers, analysts, and administrators. Next slide, please. And we also have Michael Bryant from Dell Secureworks. Michael is a senior manager in the Secureworks adversary group. He has over 20 years of experience in the information security field, including both offensive, defensive, and compliance roles. And so I've been at Spelman for approximately a little bit over a year now, and my area of specialization is cybersecurity. And I wanted to revitalize the curriculum and enhance the curriculum at Spelman because there is a dire need for individuals who are trained in the area of security and securing systems. And so when I went about looking at the curriculum, Dell has been a strategic partner, not only with Spelman College, but specifically with our department. So through our collaboration, I began talking with different individuals and engineers and became acquainted with Michael. And we began engaging on co-curricular development for the cybersecurity course that I was revising and retrofitting for the Spelman student. So Dell is a member of Spelman's Corporate Partners Program, and our partnership consists of a comprehensive engagement investment strategy, which includes student scholarship, support, student professional development training, paid internships. There is Geek Week sponsorship, equipment support, and including the co-curricular development that Michael and I have been engaged in. So I just wanted to make that statement so there's an understanding of the relationship between Spelman College and Dell Secureworks and Dell overall as a corporation. And with John Wilson, our CIO, he and I have been working together to see how to also enhance our curricular activities as it relates to cybersecurity education. And so we're here today to actually talk about that collaboration and its importance in training the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. So we're going to begin our panel with just an overview being presented by both John and Michael, and then I'll come back to talk about some of aligning our curriculum with the NICE framework, and then we'll open it up for questions. So next slide, please. So, okay, here basically the learning outcomes that we were trying to have for this event were, we wanted to build mutually beneficial and productive collaborations between academic and industry partners, leverage the strength of the partners to satisfy NICE learning objectives, and to determine the best practices for aligning theoretical concepts to practical hands-on exercises. And both John and Michael have contributed a lot to JET's some of the skill sets and that are needed by those individuals who will be serving in those roles in the different capacities that are presented at both Dell and within our technology services on campus. Next slide, please. So John, you can take it.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Before I jump in, I want to start off with some statistics. Some of you may be familiar with these stats, and to others, they may be somewhat startling. But as we head into 2021, there are about 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs worldwide. And if you narrow that down to the United States, you can see of the major cities listed here, there are thousands and thousands of unfilled cybersecurity jobs in every major city. And if you extrapolate that across the country, the number is even larger. So we definitely have a shortage of cybersecurity talent here. And as Dr. Hill and I have discussed in the past, we need to get students involved in this field. There's a tremendous opportunity here, and the field needs to tap talent pools that they haven't looked at historically. You know, we are all competing for the same talent. And so the talent pool is very small, it's very shallow at this point in time. So we need to expand it and make it bigger. As Raquel said, I am the Vice President for Technology Services and CIO at Spelman College. So I oversee day-to-day IT operations and do some strategic planning as well. When I look down the road, one thing that is just a glaring issue for me is the talent pool, particularly around cybersecurity. As we know, that landscape is becoming more and more complex every day. There are new exploits. We now have the cloud or multiple cloud interactions that we have to manage, and we have to keep all of this secure. We also have CRM systems that are actually creating new data, new information. So the data that we have to manage and keep secure is just exploding. So there's an urgent need for us to not only train up the staff that we have, but to bring new staff into this organization. One thing that's very exciting for me with this field is that historically, this has been the realm of computer scientists and engineers. Those folks who maybe even had a math background, who had a real requisite skill set for computers, computer skills, et cetera. And that still exists today, don't get me wrong, but we can also tap talent pools that may be comprised of musicians and artists, gamers, others who have the ability to think creatively, to think quickly, to think outside of the box, so to speak. So this field is really wide open to anyone who has the requisite skills or is willing to learn them. If we don't do something relatively quickly, this problem is just going to get worse. Today, only 25% of applicants who actually apply for jobs are qualified, and this trend just can't go on. As the threat actors continue to get better and to build their capabilities, we have to do the same. And currently, we're just falling way behind. And then the last stat I want to leave you with, and this one really resonated with me. Cybersecurity has had a 0% unemployment rate since 2011. So if that doesn't tell you the amount of opportunity that's here, I mean, I think that is a very, very telling statistic. And so that really sets up for the conversation that I'd like to have with you this afternoon, and the opportunity that we're trying to build at Spelman to actually fill some of this gap. Next slide, please. We are in the early stages of implementing a cybersecurity operations training center, also known as a SOC, a Security Operations Center on campus. We have a tremendous talent pool at Spelman College. As you may know, Spelman is very selective. We get a very, very bright and capable talent pool. The only particular challenge is that many of them have not been exposed to computer sciences just because of their where their high school was located, et cetera. They may not have had the opportunity to be exposed to those areas. However, they're very bright, very talented, and we want to tap into that. Spelman Technology Services, we provide IT services to the campus at scale. That includes obvious things like the network, email, cybersecurity, identity and access management, and other capabilities. But this represents a unique opportunity for me and for my group, who has historically been on the administrative side of the house, to really partner with the academy to create opportunities for these students to get some well-needed exposure. So we want to provide these opportunities to students so they can begin to learn cybersecurity tools and best practices. And really growing this talent pool helps not only Spelman, but it helps the students by preparing them for jobs in the field. If for no other reason, they're exposed to it, and if it's something that they want to pursue as a career, they now have that option because they're aware and they've been exposed. My shop is relatively small at Spelman College, so we're going to leverage some of our partner relationships to actually bring this Security Training Operations Center into reality. We're going to partner with the Computer Science Department, as Dr. Hill mentioned. I've had some opportunity to talk to Dr. Hill about the curriculum that she's developing, and I'm very excited about it. And then hopefully this operations center will be a place where the students can actually bridge that knowledge that they've gained in the classroom and then use it in a practical application as they survey and monitor our network on campus. So we have a network monitoring partner that we work with, as well as a security services provider. And so we want to make this a collaborative team effort to expose the students to the best practices and tools that are currently in use. And here are just a few of the learning opportunities in addition to the ones that Dr. Hill spoke of previously. So we're also launching a data science initiative. And so that dovetails nicely with giving our students the opportunity to look at the SIM telemetry that we're generating, to try to make sense of it and identify trends. So that'll be a very, very valuable and rich exposure for the students, as well as network management and artificial intelligence and other technologies that we're looking forward to exposing the students to. So as I said before, we're in the early stages. We have been funded for this. We will begin design and construction very soon, and hopefully we'll go live sometime third quarter of 2021. So again, this is just an excellent opportunity for the administrative and the academic sides of the house to work together to create valuable opportunities for students. And I believe that's it. I believe with that, I will introduce our partner, Michael from Dell. Next slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, as John stated earlier, the shortage of cybersecurity jobs we will be facing means that organizations like mine and other organizations out there, we must collaborate with colleges and universities to help train and prepare the next generation of security professionals if we're going to meet that need. As a hiring professional, to John's point, I'm always competing with everyone else for the same group of individuals for the jobs that I have open, and trying to expand that to where there's a bigger pool of individuals qualified to do that job is what we're trying to accomplish. For me, there's technical skills and soft skills that I really look for when I'm trying to fill my positions. For me, I'm in an adversary group, so I do offensive security type of operations such as penetration testing and red teaming. I've also been involved with the defensive side of the house, where you're trying to catch those threat actors and make sure that you're protecting those individuals in your organizations. And it's important for students to be exposed to the types of experience and the real world skills that will not only make them attractive to future employers, but also allow them to provide immediate impact with those organizations. Therefore, exposing students to the appropriate skills they will need is of paramount importance. And that's where getting involved with Dr. Hill earlier this year allowed us to kind of look at that and look at her curriculum and see, based off of what she was planning to teach, where can we provide hands-on experience for those students. Now we kind of got a curveball threw at us because we started before COVID, and then we had a little bit of a sidetrack as that kind of hit, and we were looking at how we were going to provide that kind of hands-on experience when everything was looking at a remote learning situation. So there's been some challenges involved, but we worked through a lot of that and talked about it over the summer. to try and help, provide those skills and that hands-on learning. For us, exposure to both offensive and defensive technical skills, they can be acquired from various sources, some existing, such as internships, depending on your school or university, student-led cybersecurity clubs that also offer in-house training, as well as just exposure to the various different areas of security that one might want to be involved with. Then you have capture the flag contests that you see both hosted out there by organizations such as OWASP or other entities, as well as ones that you'll find at various security conferences that are held throughout the world. These provide hands-on opportunities for students and to whet their appetite about what they might be able to do in that field. Just getting students interested in those type of things is the first step. I don't always look for someone with all the skills that I need, because I know I can help teach some of that as I go. Having some skills to start with is a base, as a help. But I'm really looking for that passion from someone who is like just interested in the field. It helps me kind of grow them in a manner that allows them to be a part of the team within my organization and similar organizations as well. There's also the competitions, the national competitions out there, such as the CCDC events, which are very valuable for students. We've hired quite a few people from CCDC events over the years. It's just a good area for students to get involved in and get some exposed to the industry as well. On the soft skill side, that's a little bit more of a challenge, but they can be acquired and honed during the course of these activities as well. Really looking for those oral and written communication abilities, much like everybody else in employers out there. For me, we're in a consulting role a lot of times, so managing the expectations and the needs of potential customers. It just makes for a much more effective employee than one who's just technical by nature, right? Those well-rounded students come out of college with both a good base of technical skills as well as the ability to communicate is much more valuable to an employer in this regard. So working with Dr. Hill, we went through her curriculum and pinpointed some areas where we could provide some hands-on learning for the students. We obviously, as I said earlier, we kind of got the curveball through at us by COVID, and that presented some pretty big challenges for how to accomplish that kind of work in a remote environment. Part of the challenges were identifying the correct medium for presenting the hands-on lab instruction, and that was a focal point of quite a few discussions that Dr. Hill and I had over the summer. Existing platforms did not always fully provide what we were looking for, or they had a steep learning curve for effective usage. So as we went through the summer, we kind of settled on a solution that worked for Dr. Hill and her students. And I think from there, she's been able to provide some of the hands-on learning that she was looking to get for her students this fall. That's all I have. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Hill.
So thank you, John and Michael, for just your presentation. And when I was looking at, identifying people who could actually serve on a panel to just talk about, this co-curricular development that we're using, or identifying, collaborative partners, definitely John and representatives from Dell, given our current partnership, I knew that this would be essential. And I had the great opportunity to be introduced to Michael via another Dell employer. And so his knowledge of the area has been very helpful in identifying some of the hands-on resources that we needed. And as he stated, there was a learning curve. So the particular course that I am, changing and adapting to Spelman, it's originally taught as a graduate student course. So there was, there's a significant amount of changing that needs to be done with the course to actually tailor it to the undergraduate student, and also to tailor it to the undergraduate student who may not have been introduced to other systems-oriented courses. And so the students who enroll in this course are students who don't have computer networks background. So the course is a survey security course on networks and security. So we begin by introducing them to the network protocol stack and identifying issues or features of the protocol stack that can actually be exploited, and then helping them to understand how to address those, the vulnerabilities or the threats that can be launched against the protocol stack, and, providing the hands-on for that. And as Michael stated that, we were exploring different platforms, looking at different cloud resources, and what actually worked for us, because the students were going to be totally remote, and that would also limit how I could interact with them, via our virtual learning platform. Dell actually has supported us in providing virtual machine software at no cost to our students. And so what the students have been able to do is work within using VMware on their own machines with little, very little overhead in actually learning the software, because they had been engaged. Some of those students who've taken like operating systems have actually used virtual machine software in the past. And so there's an ease of use, even with the design of VMware, the VMware software that we're actually using. And so that made it very easy and low overhead for the students to just begin to launch virtual machines and then begin the attack and protection scenarios that were designed out, that I designed out in the lab. So that actually became the most efficient way for us to engage them in these hands-on learning experience. And Michael provided, some resources that were online that will allow us to do penetration testing and launch other types of attack within this virtual sandbox environment, so the students could actually begin to understand the nature of an attack, what an attack signature would actually look, how it would actually look, and how then to protect. So students are able to see both sides of, an attack. They can see the offensive strategy of the attackers, and they could see the defensive and proactive strategies of those who are required to protect systems. And so this has worked very well for us, even as we are engaging in virtual learning. And so as I looked at the NICE framework, one of the things that what I think is essential, and an essential part of that framework, is these hands-on lab experiences. And so when I'm looking at how then do I map my learning outcomes for the class to the framework, I basically started with my learning objectives for the course and mapping those to the knowledge areas within the framework, and then back to the roles that are required and tasks that are required for specific roles that people would assume once they had the training. And so that hasn't been a difficult process. Probably the most challenging part has been just, the pivot we had to do because of COVID and being online, and providing the students with meaningful hands-on experience within that environment. So as was stated previously, if you have any questions for the panel, please put them in the question and answer section. I know there was, and so I'll start taking questions now because we have about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we get questions from the audience. So there was a first question, and I sent a question in response to that question. And I think it may have been related, John, to the sources that you use for the statistics that you presented. And I'm not sure if you, have that readily available, but do you have the sources for those references that you made, those statistical references that you made?
I do, Dr. Hill, and I will, hold on, let me find those for you. A number of cybersecurity studies, and there was a study that was published by the, I don't want to get the name wrong. Hold on, let me find this. Quickly, hold on. I've got it.
And I don't know, John, if you can drop that in the chat. If you say it, I will type it as your.
Right, so I have it here. It's the Herjavec Group, Herjavec, and they have published a cybersecurity research paper. So a number of the statistics came from that reading. And then there are a number of other readings as well. And I will put them all in the chat.
Okay, all right. And then there's a question and answer. I'm going to cancel that. So because you have that source. Okay. There's another question. Are there any details regarding the VMware product? Is there a version of VMware, of the VMware learning platform? There is VMware IT Academy, and so the products that we're actually using is VMware Workstation Pro for PCs, and it is VMware Fusion because a lot of our students use Macs. And so the VMware Fusion basically is the product that enables them, and the Workstation Pro is for the PC. And we needed those versions because we wanted to be able to launch multiple virtual machines so that the students could have the attack protection scenario and be able to implement that within the virtual space. VMware is also launching, and it wasn't launched prior to the beginning of the semester, but like a network emulation software that as an add-on to that. And that would allow us to experience, to emulate like wide area network type behavior, but we weren't able to integrate that into the course. But if you take a look at the VMware IT Academy, and then there you can see how you could begin to engage and use that, that particular platform. That product line. And for us, it worked very well because the students just needed to download the software, and then they were up and running without having to learn any additional, software packages or even information of how to set up the lab. They could follow the actual instructions. And so because the interface, the user interface for VMware is so intuitive, so I didn't want our students to be challenged with having to learn an environment and while we're virtual during COVID, and have the overhead of learning that without having like the ability to reach out to me in the hallways and ask for help. So I wanted to reduce the likelihood of that. And so VMware actually became a very key part of our ability to deliver our labs, virtually. And So there's another question. Also, do you have an example of what types of labs you're building? Yes, for example, so before we even got into the labs, I do some work before we get into the attack scenarios. So some of the tools that students learn initially was just as we were learning the network protocol stack, and I do the shortened stack, starting with the application, then transport, network, and link layers, not going into the physical layer and how we're actually encoding, bits as they travel across the wire but staying at the link layer and looking at, for example, an Ethernet frame. So we go from the application layer down to the link layer, and the students learn the protocols and the interactions and what it means to actually transfer data from one source to a destination and how data is routed through the internet. And so what the students are looking at the data from an end-to-end perspective, from the source point of view and the destination's point of view. And so they first begin by looking at that data with Wireshark and understanding what you can see the header and what the format of the header should be, when we're reading the textbook, any networking textbook, but to actually visualize that data and understand how that data is formatted in the actual physical packet. So using a tool like Wireshark and understanding data and how the data is presented is essential. So we start with those types of tools. And then, for some of the introductory labs and looking at things like DNS, like what happens when we go to a website, that the website is unencrypted data, the fact that you can see the actual data in the data portion of a packet, and that is visual, they're able to see that when using something like Wireshark, and just doing the whole interaction of the transfer of data. It's interesting that our students, and when I say our students, not only Spelman students, but students at other academic institutions, while they use technology all the time and they're doing network communication all the time, they have limited understanding of what that translates, what it actually means to do, transmit data from one machine to the other and what that all entails. Like when we begin to break down, how many messages are actually sent from the time you enter Amazon.com in the browser window and you actually retrieve that front page, the main web page for a site, how many messages that entails, the fact that you're communicating with not only Amazon, but the Amazon domain, but that you have to also talk to, DNS servers to resolve IP addresses. They don't have an understanding of that. And so it's important to actually see all of that. Another, so when the students have their basic understanding of the stack, we begin to look at things like denial of service attacks and what does that look like, and looking at things like SYN flooding and SYN spoofing, and how those are used oftentimes as a part of an overall DNS denial of service attack strategy. And so in SYNs, I'm being a little bit of a teacher right now, but SYNs are basically a flag that's set in a message when you're establishing a TCP connection, which is a transport layer protocol in the network layer stack, and all web-based communication is transmitted over TCP. And so we all hear TCP IP and we understand, we know that acronym, but that's just how it's placed, as it relates to the network and communication stack. Okay. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so how much did it cost to implement the VMware solution? I would like to do the same thing. Well, the thing is, for us, it didn't cost us anything. It was VMware was actually a donation by Dell. Given our corporate partnership and collaboration with Dell, Dell has actually provided us with hardware to support my physical networking lab. They've also provided funds to help build out that lab. And because of the collaboration that we have, they provided us with the licenses for this academic year, especially with the presence of COVID and the challenges that it presented for the class, because we were already collaborating. They provided that for us also. So at no cost to Spelman. And so it was really essential in order to get this done. And so I really do appreciate, I cannot say, you know, anything but positive things about, you know, how Dell has collaborated with us on this. And I think that types of labs, I talked about the types of labs and the learning platform. Are there, we probably have about maybe 4 minutes. Well, no. We have about 9 minutes left. And are there any other questions from the audience at this time? So while we're waiting on questions from the audience, I have a couple of questions for the panelists. And so my first question is, why is it important for your organization to engage in co-curricular activities like this? And I know you kind of hinted at that during your presentations, but why is this important? John, we can start with you.
Sure, thanks, Dr. Hill. You know, for us, we have a data center, we have a network, we have tremendous resources on campus that are used to provide services to the campus. So in a very real way, we are a service provider. And I think if we can engage students and get them involved, they get real world experience on a Tuesday, they get classroom experience on a Wednesday, and so it goes and back and forth. So we are here to not only provide service to the campus, but if we can reinforce what you're teaching them and interact with students regarding the technology that they're learning, I think that it enhances their learning opportunity, and they can walk out of Spelman with not only a degree, but some very practical, documented, real world experience. So we're kind of able to do both, provide the administrative support and then support you from an academic perspective.
Michael?
Yeah, for me, it's, you know, I enjoy exposing new people to what I have passion with around security, right? I've been doing security for a long time. I'm involved with a lot of conferences, both in the Southeast and all over the United States, well, at least in the before time. Hopefully, you know, next year we will be able to go back to having conferences and meeting in person, but I meet a lot of college students from various schools when I'm at these conferences, and I see them participate in the capture the flag events. I see them interested in the training that's going on, and I see some of the passion that they have. And for myself, I just like to kind of stoke that fire and keep it going so that we can build that pool of qualified individuals that I can, you know, that I and other folks like myself can call on when we're looking to hire new individuals into our organization. That's primarily what I look to do when I'm collaborating with folks like Dr. Hill. You know, for me, it's just something that I'm passionate about, helping educate others and getting them into the industry.
Thank you. So there was another question that came in. What is next for your program, and where do you see the opportunity expanding? And so we're looking to hire within our systems area within the Department of Computer and Information Sciences, and this will help us to expand the course offerings in this space. So one of the courses that I think is essential is before even the network and security course is the offering of our computer networks course, which is which is already on the books but hasn't been offered in a while. And so that's one of the things that we're looking to offer soon, and also to build up the curriculum in other areas. We already have security concepts and principles being that are currently in our digital literacy course, which all of our non-science majors actually take. And so there's a computer security and privacy component to that. And we're looking at refreshing that curriculum also. And also one of my objectives is to and develop a cybersecurity team at Spelman that can compete and engage in the types of activities, the capture the flag activities that Michael has mentioned. And so that's also in the works. And so we're going to be developing curriculum and integrating this into integrating security into our courses, and also looking at, not just the networks and the computer networks courses, but some of our software development courses to integrate secure coding in some of our coding, our programming courses. And so I'm not sure if there are any other questions. We are at about 4 minutes now. And I just want to ask the panel whether they have any closing remarks or anything that they would like to end with.
Yeah, I would just like to, if we have parents or educators or folks in the audience who come in contact with young people, I think one of the barriers that we have in this field is just fear and an apprehension that it's hyper technical and I can't do it, or I'm not qualified, or anything along those lines. And let's just encourage our young people to get involved with something, whether it's a coding boot camp or a cybersecurity lecture. Let's just encourage them to expose themselves to this very interesting and growing and wide open field at this point, so that we can begin to get more folks involved and in the ranks and begin to develop a pipeline. With millions and millions of jobs available, the sky is the limit. And I know a lot of young people out there have the talent, but they may not even know. They may be just an expert gamer, but don't know that those skills will transfer into the cybersecurity realm, and they could create a real opportunity for them. So just as we leave, I would just like to encourage everyone to be encouraging to the young folks out there.
Michael, you'll have the last word.
Yeah. Well, along those lines to what John was referring to, right? If you are a part of a university or school and you do not have like a student-led cybersecurity club, I highly encourage finding, it might take some work to identify individuals that can kind of build and lead that type of organization, and the longer, then from there, kind of care and feeding over each semester and each year as it goes on. But that's kind of the ground level of getting that interest and finding out who amongst the student population will be passionate about the security and things that we're trying to accomplish. Just to tag on to what the other point John made during his speech was, for me, it's not all computer science majors, right? I have English majors, I have poli-sci majors, I have a whole plethora of different educational backgrounds, but they all just have either on their own learned how to do the type of activities and work that we do, or it's their hobby, or it's their passion. And as John said, just identify, try to introduce young people to the field and to just science and technology in general, and try to encourage where you can to push them in that direction.
So thank you everyone for actually joining us today. And John and Michael, thank you so much for all of your support, through this, this virtual learning phase that we're in. And there are, many online resources out there for labs. And I think someone actually put in the chat about different labs that are currently out there that's being funded, projects that provide these resources. There's Deter, which is a NSF funded project that provides you the networking infrastructure to do these types of things. There are projects by the NSA, but one of the things that challenged us was COVID and having to pivot and go virtual, very quickly. And I really thank Dell for their support through this process and helping to enable me to deliver this curriculum through this to the students, in this virtual space. So thank you all for your time and attention, and have a great day and rest of the conference.